Savings goals keeping you up at night? Let a Regions banker help you build a Regions Green Print plan, a free financial roadmap personalized for what matters to you. Start building your financial confidence. Visit Regions.com to find a branch near you. Regions Bank, member FDIC.
Broadcasting from the Subaru of Gwinnett studio inside the Gas South Convention Center in Duluth, Georgia, it's time for Gwinnett Business Radio. Gwinnett Business Radio is presented by Regions Bank. Start building your financial confidence at Regions Bank. Member FDIC, an equal housing member.
Greetings and salutations, everybody. It was your second guest, though, Harper. This is your slightly annoying host, Stephen Julian, welcoming you to another hopefully award-winning edition of Gwinnett Business Radio, broadcasting live from the Subaru of Gwinnett studios inside the beautiful Gas South Convention Center here in Duluth, Georgia. By my side, we have two great guests, but by my side is the co-host. He should be the host, but he humbly sits in the co-host seat and lets me make all the mistakes. It is Harper LaBelle.
Oh, don't get me started, because I'll make plenty of mistakes before we're done here today. But I did get one thing right.
You did. It was your second guess, but it was your final answer.
Well, I changed my final.
After saying final answer, you did. You said final answer, and then you
I?
said I'm changing my pick.
But it was before we went live, so
it was.
There is no final answer.
Dan's sultry tones brought us into the show.
Yeah.
It was
good guess. I think that's my first one for the.
I had
year.
gotten one right finally, and now I'm back on my losing streak. So I have to break my bad mood here. You know how I'm going to do that? By introducing our two great guests. We have Richard Culberson. He is the CEO of North America of VoiceNation and Moneypenny. We also have Dr. Rob Wood from Total Joint Specialists here. So let's get right into why everyone is here, and that is to hear from our great guests. Richard Culberson, the CEO of North America Operations of VoiceNation and Moneypenny. Richard, welcome to the studio.
Thanks for having me, guys.
And I should say welcome back to the studio, because you have been here before, so we're glad to have you back again. So for those people that didn't catch the first interview, VoiceNation, Moneypenny, what is it you guys do?
Sure. The easiest way to describe it is we basically are the front door to businesses. So we help with customer communications, whether that's telephone, online chat, inbound, outbound calls. We basically are a telephone answering service, but also really a premium contact center. A couple things we talk about is we talk about our receptionists, who basically the people that answer a phone for you. And it can be as simple as take a name, take a number, take a message, which a lot of businesses still prefer, believe it or not. But also we can do really deep integrations, deep partnerships. We can take payments. We can set appointments, manage appointments, take insurance, especially when you're looking at medical providers, validate insurance. So we're really proud to be able to go deeper into those relationships as well.
Wait a second, Richard. I thought robots were going to do all that.
Oh, they're coming. I mean,
they're on the way?
They're definitely coming.
But in the meanwhile, that's what you're for.
Absolutely. And to be honest, I was debating how long it would take until we drop into the AI conversation as part of our business.
We get right to it. We don't have time.
Whoever had 2 minutes and 28 seconds on their bingo card, they win.
But we didn't last long.
Yeah.
But it's time after time, because we try to be really smart about this, because we watch and there's amazing technology out there these days. But at the end of the day, people still really want human interaction. The bots are getting better and better. The AI is getting smarter and smarter. And what right now we focus on is how do we put that technology to use behind the people? So how do we be as efficient as possible so we're not driving up unnecessary costs for our clients? And how can we make sure it's even more accurate than our messages are today, and the interactions can be deeper and quicker? So we keep building out on that, and we keep on testing it and playing with it and see what those bots are. But until it's something that you, kind of going back to the reference of being the front door to businesses, until you're willing to say that's what you want somebody to be greeted by when they open the door, we can continue to provide that human interaction that people really seem to crave.
Please feel free to correct this if I'm wrong on this, but I wonder if the average business owner who hasn't utilized your services yet makes one of two mistakes in thinking about what your services are. Either number one, I don't want to release that. I really want that to be my, I'm going to pick up the phone. I'm going to answer the calls, and it's going to be someone who's in our business and knows our business. That's number one. Or number two, thinking maybe like, well, I would have to do everything with you, or I would have to do so many different things. So kind of talk to that business owner who goes, yeah, that sounds interesting. I don't think it's for me because of X or Y.
Sure, and we have that conversation a lot because it's an important one, because at the end of the day, that connection with your customers, with your clients at the end of the day, by having someone else represented out there, that's a huge trusted partnership that we take very seriously. So we're very careful about that, and I respect that decision. But ultimately, what I talk a lot about is generally we can work with very small businesses, we can work with very large enterprises, but across the board, at the end of the day, they want to know that they can trust that interaction that we have. And that's few and far between. You can find somebody that, like, well, I'm very comfortable with this at the end of the day. Yeah. So that's something that we're constantly pushing on.
Can you give an example? I want to focus on your answer of the smallest, because I think the largest enterprise, I think large enterprises get that. And they're usually like, yeah, we definitely need your services. But talk to that small business owner. Can you give a specific example of kind of how small? Hey, we did this, we had this one company and it's a small, and we helped with this one thing and was able to take it off their plate and the benefits to them.
Sure. It's, as you'd imagine, as a business, what we try to do is we look at how can we find the best opportunities to work with clients and who can we serve the best? And we say, well, how big are these opportunities? Just like any business, we try to size that. And quite often we say, okay, well, how many employees do they have or how much revenue do they have? At the end of the day, the funny thing is there's no correlation to that. The depth of the relationship we often have is with smaller businesses, because once you've established that trust, now we can do so much more for them. So it can be as light as, listen, if you're not confident in this kind of relationship and it's new, we can just take overflow. So a lot of people typically think about this as almost like our outsourcing in a lower cost approach, which it definitely is. We provide that advantage. But the biggest thing is we help make sure you don't miss that phone call or that phone call is handled right. So we use some clients, our water remediation. Each one of their jobs can be $40,000. So by not taking that phone call in the middle of the night when you have that leaky pipe, that's a huge cost for them. So it's really easy to substantiate. Just let us take your overflow calls and make sure you don't miss those calls. Typically, we see that's a lot of time how a relationship starts, but then they say, oh, wait a minute, you handle these calls really well. So that's something now I can move. You can take a lot of my primary calls, or maybe you do outbound calls. We could do outreach to your clients for you so you don't have to. So importantly, I found that a lot of entrepreneurs and smaller businesses, they do hold things very closely because it's their baby. It's so important to them. But at the end of the day, what they start to understand is I need to do something right. So if you're a physician or a practitioner, I want to see my patients and I want to be working with them. Last thing I want to do is be focused and distracted by how do I run a call center? How do I have people taking my phone calls? It's important for their business, so that we take that incredibly carefully for each one of our over almost 6,000 clients. But at the end of the day, it's an important relationship.
Interesting. You said carefully. I was thinking we take it incredibly seriously, but carefully would be we're going to help manage this because you, as a business person, are unique, and your needs are unique, and we want to make sure that we meet those. Take me through the process. I'm thinking of one example of a guy that is in the small repair business, let's say, and when the phone rings, I can't repair anything because I got to answer the phone. Mm-hmm. But he doesn't want to hire somebody else. But where do you come in, and how does the process work when people initially get in touch with you?
So we
and that's just an example. You said big, all kinds of different opportunities. Okay,
and it's because we serve law offices, we serve physicians, we're in healthcare on the payer and the provider side. Home services are huge for us, but let's run with your example. So it's something that everyone can understand. So you've got a small auto repair shop, right? So you want to be under that hood fixing, because that's how you make your money, not being in the other office and making sure that you're taking every single call. So typically, if someone comes to us, so in that example, they say, hey, I might need this, we really start with an onboarding experience, because we want to understand their business. And to be honest, that's why I love my job. I love what we do, but it's almost more fun to learn what all of our clients do. So you can learn about that. What do they need to do? Because a lot of times they've never had this relationship in the past. So you come in and say, well, tell me a little bit about your business. How do you want us to greet you? I said carefully or not seriously, because a lot of times they say, I want you to be light of heart. It's like we can talk about the kind of the IQ and the EQ side. So making sure we represent their business. If they want it to be like a law office might want something that's very crisp and very firm, we can have that specificity in how we work. So we try to bring that in on that onboarding process. We actually have an onboarder call. We recently changed from doing that over the phone to do it via Microsoft Teams, actually by video, so you can actually see people and you can see their interaction. Even that was a step up. But to understand what their business needs, and we can talk about how we typically operate, and then we change that based on the needs of their business. So we found that onboarding, and we constantly do that. We do check-in points, kind of health checks with all of our clients of, how are your calls going? We've seen this seems awkward, but our receptionists have a capability in our platform that says that call was funny. Let me flag it. And then we send it around internally to see what can we do to tweak that. And we may even outreach to the client to say, wait a minute, you don't like working on Nissans, going back to our auto repair business of like, well, why didn't we ask up front to say, oh, we don't work on Japanese cars, we only work on German cars or something like that. So we can tweak that script so it can be specific to them. So it's kind of a fun learning experience on both sides.
I guess the customization would be a part of it too, because everyone's a little bit different. You have enough items in your menu to be able to offer many different options and some specifics that you would recommend that a customer or a potential client would say, that kind of fits exactly with what I'm doing. Can you add or delete a little bit of that and tweak it and get it to where everybody's happy?
Absolutely.
That's part of the process, I would imagine.
It turns into a partnership. I go back into the medical field. We do on-call physicians and as a service quite often, and they will look from their lens at physician, like, do not send me a call in the middle of the night if it's not important. So they focus heavily on that.
If Game of Thrones is on, I don't want to take a call. Is that what you're telling me?
Do we still watch Game of Thrones?
I don't know. I just was thinking of
Great show.
popular.
Insert most popular streaming show here.
I was like, what
Monday Night
yeah,
Football.
what
Well,
year is
let's
this?
do
I
one.
thought that was our last interview.
During Monday Night Football,
Yeah.
because I am busy.
Right.
Something.
But it's absolutely right. Like, they don't want to be bothered, right? So they focus on that, and we say, okay, well, let's take it first, go to the admin, and then call this person, and then call this person. Don't bother me that often. But what we did, we can write that script, and we can say, all right, call A, then B, then C, then text, and do this. We can make this long list, which is great, and it's very flexible, which they love. But then we flipped that a bit and was like, okay, let's talk about this, because there's a patient calling in who has an urgent need in the middle of the night.
Yeah, does it change?
We can
during,
shorten that.
Okay, and does it also change during specific hours when everybody is in the office? You can do it a little bit differently than when it's at 3 or 4 in the morning, right?
We can be as customized as they like. We've got quite often we do business hours and then after business hours, and they might like something completely different over the weekends. So we can tweak that based on time, based on business. We work a lot with franchises as well. So we can target location by location because, for example, we work with a fantastic business that does glass repair. Well, some different franchises will do doggy doors. So they'll install pet doors, but others won't. So we can basically target based on that. We'll start with a common framework because as a franchise group, you want that consistency on how you interact. But then we can put it location by location based on whether you install a dog door.
We are speaking with Richard Culberson. He is the CEO of the North American branch of VoiceNation and Moneypenny. And Richard, I'm going to transition a little bit and ask you a couple of CEO level questions. So, get ready. I know this is really intense. So one of the cool things, your main location, you have a location here in Duluth, in fact, right across the street from the beautiful Gas South Convention Center. So thank you for letting me give Gas South another shout out right next to, right across the street from you guys. So I do want to ask about your reach. So, CEO, kind of North America division. So VoiceNation and Moneypenny is a global company, but specifically what you're overseeing and what especially the location here in Duluth is kind of working with, how far is the reach of your location here?
Sure. I guess it's probably worth, you always say, CEO of North America. Well, what does that mean? What is that not? So actually, Moneypenny is a company. We started in Wrexham, Wales in the UK, which many people not heard of Wrexham prior to Ryan Reynolds buying the soccer club over there. Right. So all of a sudden, it's got all of this fanfare. And we have actually been a sponsor of the team and the largest employer in Wrexham. We have over 1,000 people in Wales. And we're the market leader in the UK. That's really was started in 2000 by a brother-sister combination. They missed a fax. They missed the business because of that. And they said, wait a minute, someone should be doing this for other businesses. So that started in 2000. In 2015, we entered the States. So we came in organically, entered in Charleston, and then grew via acquisition. So we've bought 3 companies since in VoiceNation, AlphaPage, and Sunshine Communications, all very like-minded, all premium answering services. But that brought us into Atlanta, Colorado, and now we're in South Florida as well. And we have people in all those locations. But yes, our headquarters here is in beautiful Duluth, right across the street from Gas South, as well as I'll put the plug in for the Gwinnett Chamber as well.
Well done.
Thank you. Yeah. There's residual on the way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then the other thing I wanted to ask is, as the CEO, and you've already done it in this interview, just kind of talking about your team. Talk about who you guys, I'm sure you were constantly looking, because, we did have the AI conversation, but there's always going to be, I believe there's a place for people, and people are always going to be involved in that equation.
Come on, Stephen, what kind of world are you living in?
A realistic one.
A place for people?
Who are you guys looking for? Who makes a good team member of VoiceNation and Moneypenny?
Sure, and I'll speak kind of on two fronts. Because as we've grown, a big focus for us was growing our management ranks and be able to say, okay, how do we make sure that each different team is working together as we grow to make sure we scale appropriately? But more importantly, really at the heart of our business is what you'll hear me say, receptionist, and that's very intentional. So we try not to say agent, CSR, because there's just the nature that people are engaged. But come over to our office. We're very proud to be different. It's open, it's light. We're not crammed into a little space because the people that are answering the phones are actually, in our case, we're a service, we're a product. So those people are critical. And actually, here's a plug for us. We have an open house coming up for receptionists that would love to come into the business as well. But it's huge. We have over 200 in the U.S. right now. But it's such a fine art because it can be a hard job because you're on the phone all day. People that do it well have a great empathy, love engaging with people, and have a natural curiosity about businesses. So right now, we started off the business by saying this one receptionist, you can come in, you can answer, you can go from answering a personal injury attorney to a healthcare provider to a home services business. We found that that's great and people love and enjoy that. But there are certain people, and we're trying to target by if we have good people on the phone that are happy doing what they do, they reflect the businesses better. So what we've moved to recently, we actually found it's a great for our clients as well, is we go and create what we're calling pods. So groups of receptionists. So they have a passion, like one's studying to be a paralegal. So, okay, we're going to have you take legal calls. So now all of a sudden we're appealing and we're trying to bring that in with a receptionist as we hire in of, are you interested in the healthcare space? So not necessarily that you have to be a paralegal, you're not going to be a lawyer, obviously, but you have a respect for what that is. You can recognize a case number. Or, all the protections we have in the healthcare side. Do you understand what HIPAA is? Do you understand the information you cannot share? Who likes to be engaged and involved with that? So someone who loves that, has that curiosity about business, it's a service mentality, empathy, and how you can rate that over the phone. That's something that's incredibly important for us and something we take very carefully.
And goes back to your very first comment that it's the front door of the business. I mean, that you are that especially that receptionist. That is the first engagement people have with a business many times.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was thinking my wife, I know I'm in trouble. Not me specifically, but someone is when my wife's representative. Representative. Right? She wants to talk to somebody. True. She wants to talk to somebody.
That's a good word.
I need to speak with, and you get to help people do that. Now, you mentioned a few qualifications. I would imagine one of the qualifications is if you're not really good with people, you may not want to be a receptionist and work with you, with Moneypenny. But I'm not limited to being a paralegal, right? If I just have an open curiosity towards a lot of things, I would be beneficial to what you're trying to accomplish, right?
Absolutely.
And who you're looking for.
It's kind of interesting because we've gone, as you imagine, we've played this a little bit. So we kind of over-index a little bit. It's like, what specific you like to get into? We have a generalist population as well. So if you like that variation, so you like different things in your day, you like to have that auto parts shop. You like to follow up with water remediation, and then you'd like to be able to take a doctor's phone call on the back end of that. So we do what we call dispatch on the back end as well. So not only talk with the clients, a lot of times you're talking to the employees of the business as well. So to be able to pivot that mindset of talking internally with a business member as well as talking to their customers.
Well, Stephen is kind of moldy, so I think the remediation would be perfect for you.
Don't you think, Stephen?
It's a big word.
Well
I was impressed I got that
moldy
out,
is better than
I like
careful.
That. And beyond just reception and phone calls, you kind of mentioned there's chat bots, there's other, it doesn't all have to be voice bound, correct?
Absolutely.
So talk a little bit about some of the other services.
Sure, I think, and it varies by business, right? So what we try to figure out is how do your customers like to be served with your business? So as I mentioned, more people than you can possibly imagine still want to talk to somebody on a phone. So that is the bread and butter of our business. That's core. We make sure we do that very well. But you really need to have an omni-channel approach on all of this stuff. We'll say what we've found is we're very proud to have live chat. So to have literally that is not a bot on the back end, that is a person that's on the back end of that chat, whether it's sales or support or different elements of that. But it might be outbound phone calls, it might be messages. You've got to be where your customer wants you to be. Because at the end of the day, if you force them to some path that they want to be, it's just a friction point. And in today's world, there's so many different businesses they can go to a competitor.
So there's more to it than just representative. Representative.
Something happened in Harper's life or his or in the family life.
Maybe I've heard that more than others have. I'm not sure, but you help connect people. The Moneypenny, you mentioned before we went on the air, the connectivity with the James Bond character. But how do we get in touch with you if we want to know more about not only the company or employment, but how you connect people?
Sure. Probably the easiest way is to go out, just like we talk about on the website all the time, is you can go out and go to VoiceNation.com or you can go to Moneypenny.com. Two slightly different approaches to the same service, but you can see what works. But whatever you do, if you call into that, you'll get into our, first off, you might land one of our receptionists, but you'll hit our sales
If you look
team.
at Ryan Reynolds, if you look up Ryan, will there be a Moneypenny connectivity, in the Kevin Bacon, the 7 steps
Well,
to
watch the
eventually get to him?
Wrexham matches. I'm sure
Yeah.
there's
We'll give Rob McElhaney some help too. I know Ryan comes out there a lot, but Rob's very important there too.
Yeah.
and you can see Moneypenny advertising. Well, just being a sponsor of the club. So VoiceNation.com, Moneypenny.com, and I'm sure there's phone numbers to call and chat bots to talk to, or live chat with people and figure out. And that's both for businesses who want to engage your services, but also people who might be looking for a career change or start a career. They can certainly find opportunities with you.
Absolutely, please. We're growing. We're excited about it. We're always looking for good people.
Yeah.
Richard Culberson, CEO of VoiceNation Moneypenny here in the States. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, guys.
Representative.
There's an old commercial. I forget which it is, but as you were saying that, the other one I like is the guy's trying to get with somebody and he has to say his code word and he goes, "Big boy," and he's like on a subway. I have that clip in my head running over and over. "Big boy," and he's saying it loudly. So anyway. Which is probably my nickname. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I love just saying representative on the air, but I also love what makes a Subaru, and that is love. You can enjoy the big savings and the hassle-free experience at Subaru of Gwinnett, where people sell cars. They're at 2950 Satellite Boulevard here in Duluth. They're just 2 blocks north of the mall. 470-824-3860 is the sales number. You can get a representative if you want one. The Impreza, the Legacy, the Forester, they're all available for you. If you're already a Subaruist, you can check out their Facebook page for the latest news offers and community events.
I don't want to belabor the bit, although there are some fans of this show who would say all I do is belabor bits, but we have more than a representative from our next business.
Is there a doctor in the house?
There's a doctor in the house. Rob Wood from Total Joint Specialist. Dr. Rob Wood is here with us today. Dr. Wood, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Total Joint Specialist. It has something to do with our joints. Tell everybody about what your service does.
It does. It has a lot to do with our joints. So we are a growing group of orthopedic surgeons. And as the name suggests, we specialize in joint replacement surgery, specifically joint replacement surgery of the hip and knee. And we are pretty much a full-service line. We take care of patients with basic arthritis who have never had surgery before in their hip or knee, and all the way up to the most complex revision joint replacement for patients who have had replacements and are now having issues with the replacements either through infection or failure or fracture or what have you. So we take care of pretty much all of that stuff.
So there's a broad spectrum of why people need joints replaced. Are there certain things that as you've practiced that you've seen there's a growing amount, or is there a couple of reasons that weren't as much before that are now? Talk a little bit about some of the leading reasons why someone would need to come see Total Joint Specialists.
Yeah, so arthritis is the biggest reason far and away, and really what we're seeing more of now as opposed to back in 2000 when I started practice is the young patient with arthritis. So we're seeing the results now of patients maintaining a high level of activity throughout their entire life and staying fit and staying healthy, and that's all great for you. It's good for your lungs and your heart, and keeps your blood pressure down and keeps your blood sugar down and keeps you, active and healthy. It has an effect on our weight-bearing joints, though. We're seeing patients wearing their hips and knees out more quickly, And with improved technology and improved techniques, we're now able to take care of those patients through joint replacement surgery and restore function and get rid of pain in the younger patient with arthritis now, as opposed to, like I said, back in 2000, in the early 90s and 80s and so on. Orthopedic surgeons would not entertain the idea of operating or doing joint replacements on patients like that because of fear of failure of the joint replacement and the repercussions down the road.
We know a heck of a lot more than we did back in the 80s and 90s, though, right? So the
Absolutely.
technology has obviously changed.
Yep.
The amount of practice, meaning the number of people that might have been skeptical, afraid, or our word of the day is careful, right? They're careful not to want to do this, and now you're basically opening up the change, at least in people's minds, to where look at all these hundreds, if not thousands, or tens of thousands of people that have been drastically affected in a positive way. That's part of what the message is, correct?
Yes. Certainly, the population's aging, and we're seeing, patients living into their 80s and 90s, and they're in pain, and they're now able to have joint replacements. But again, it's the younger patients who, we're able to get them their life back. And I always tell patients, don't delay it for fear that you're going to need more surgery down the road. We can always fix that down the road. If you're at a point in your life where you're young and active and healthy and you want to be productive, it doesn't make sense to be in sort of preventable or curable pain during these years of your life.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you to focus on that a little bit, because I think one of the big questions, and it might be an incredibly unfair question, so you can scold me if you want, but are there people out there that are like, they need actual replacement, but they're going, oh, it's not that bad? Or, how does somebody know that they're going from pain management to, I might need surgery over this? Are there some general guidelines? Are there some things people need to be paying attention to, or just hear you say to them today?
Yeah, I think if you're needing to take medications every day, if you're needing to take anti-inflammatory medications every day, or Tylenol every day, or narcotic pain medications every day, that's a bit of a red flag, right? Like the pain medications are fine, the anti-inflammatories are fine, and in general, they're safe to take. If you're 30 and you want to wait until you're 60 to have a joint replacement, but you could have the joint replacement now and you would benefit from it now, 30 years is a long time to be on any medication, and that can have problems. It's one thing if your diagnosis is not curable, if it's not fixable, then, and if that's your only option, then sure, it's, you can kind of go down that road. But if there's a fix for this problem, if it's a mechanical problem that we can fix with the joint, then I think it makes sense to fix it.
And again, I think we go back to one of your first answers here of where we've come in the last 20, 25 years since you've been practicing. There was maybe a little bit of a different mindset before, when maybe the failure rate was a little higher. The technology was a generation behind where we are now. So not that it fixes all cures or fixes all ails, but the success rate is higher. The technology is better. The invasiveness of the surgery is lower. Is all these things that I'm assuming some of the factors have changed that people might go, surgery is an option I'm willing to consider sooner. It would be a fair way to put it. Okay. Yeah. So I think I do want to then pivot a little bit and go, the success rate is better, but it's not 100%. So in today's society, where we stand right now with the technology and the practice, how and when can a joint replacement fail?
Well, the real answer is it can fail at any time, right? So the modes of failure, the ways that they fail, it can fail just through simple wear and tear over a long period of time. We're seeing that less and less now with the implants that we're putting in now. The materials are just better. They're more resilient. They're more resistant to wear. But there are other things that can make a joint fail. So trauma to the joint can cause it to fail. If you have a fall or you fall downstairs or something like that, you can fracture around a joint replacement that can cause it to fail. You can have an infection. Infections can either happen at the time of surgery, or they can spread from other areas of your body, a urinary tract infection or a pneumonia or something like that. And then other more specific things like instability, hips can dislocate A lot of those problems are preventable at the time of surgery, and we use advanced technology a lot of times to make sure that we can minimize those types of complications, but you're never going to have a 0% complication rate, unfortunately.
And some of those failures would happen whether it was a replacement or your original. I mean,
Sure.
if someone falls, it's
Yep.
your regular bone can fail there too.
Right.
Yeah, I'm glad we brought that up because, the replacement's going to,
It's not made of vibranium, okay? Let's just acknowledge that he is yet to be on the market.
Yeah, there's probably some anium type of
I
material
thought
that
you
we
said
haven't.
sub-anium. Some anium? Is that a word? I'm going to look that up later.
Well, anium
Some
is
Yeah.
the end of this component that has been put together that we're gonna make products out of right now. Hey, Doc, it hurts when I do this. Well, don't do that.
Yeah.
What's the pain level that you normally see to the point where someone says, I really need to visit with you? Is it above a 5 in terms of 0 to 10? Is there some specific level? I'll let you answer that, and then I have a follow-up. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, so, pain is a difficult one because pain is very subjective, right? So, I know people who say, a 10 out of 10 is theoretically the worst pain you've ever felt. Well, the worst pain you've ever felt is the worst pain you've ever felt, whether that's from a hangnail or whether it's from a shattered pelvis, right? So
Right.
I think really it depends on the frequency of pain, the consistency of pain. Pain at night is a big thing. Once it starts interfering with your sleep, that's a big thing because it's one thing to be in pain, but if you're in pain and tired, you're just not going to be a nice person to be around.
You're like Mike Samet, then, is what you're telling me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I can hit Steven in the arm, and I could say I didn't feel
Ow.
any pain at all, and he
Yeah.
could be experiencing quite a bit. With that being said, there are people that are taking all kinds of different stuff. You mentioned the opioid type thing earlier. CBD is now a big popular thing. Just taking 2 aspirin and call me in the morning. There's different ways of remedying it, but isn't that just masking the problem in the first place? The reason I feel pain is because my hip is out of alignment, or I have damaged it earlier, and it's really causing me a situation that I can't bear right now without medication.
Yep.
Is that when people need to see you?
Yeah, I think, like I said before, if you're having pain every day that's requiring something, whether it's Tylenol or whether it's Percocet, I think if you're at that point, then it's probably time to see us. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be recommended for surgery right away, but some other type of treatment like an injection or a different medication or therapy or a brace or something like that may be warranted at that point.
And some people say, I got this by myself. I'll take what I need to take, and I'll start doing my own therapy, which a lot of times, hey, doc, it hurts when I do this. Okay, well, don't do it. That sometimes is a necessary therapy. We would just wait.
Yep.
Let your, you don't want to atrophy, but you don't want to overwork a muscle or a joint or a tendon in an area. Okay, so I'm with you on that. But my back is hurting, so I want to stretch my back out by stretching out my hamstrings. Well, that may be the exact opposite of what you should be doing. You should be stretching out your stomach and doing quadricep exercises to help straighten you out. There are certain things that I'm sure you know to do. Is there a place that instead of having surgery that I could go to you and say, Doc, this is what let's do this first that you would recommend to a client. Let's see how this works, and if we can alleviate the problem, not the pain, but the problem, wouldn't that eventually remove the pain?
Sure.
If you're taking care of the joints and tendons and muscles around that might be a solution in some cases.
At times, and usually that is effective kind of early in the spectrum of arthritis. So arthritis starts off like a lot of diseases. It's mild at the beginning, and then it just progressively, slowly gets worse over time. Typically, early in the process is when you'll see benefit from things like stretching and physical therapy and even an injection or something like that. As the pain kind of converts from being inflammatory to more mechanical in nature. In other words, you've got bone on bone, you've got, your hip is a square peg in a round hole. There's no therapy, there's no medication, there's no injection that's going to change that fact, right?
Real quick, to interrupt you. I've heard this before. I was in a business where a lot of people get hurt, and where bone on bone, after a while, the brittleness of a bone, and it becomes sand, actually, right? It's or sand type of a. When
usually
you do that
it gets,
over and over and over for years and years and years,
Yeah.
there are some obviously wear and tear. obviously.
Yeah, I mean, we can see cases where you get into situations where the patient has significant bone loss as a result of the arthritis, and that does make the eventual joint replacement more technically difficult to do. That's relatively unusual in the overall scheme of things. Usually there's some degree of deformity that's that's manageable at the time of surgery that you can fix.
Calcification, like I remember Larry Bird with his Achilles, he had bone spurs on the back of his feet.
Yep.
Incredible pain,
Yep.
stuff like that. What would be a hip, or you didn't say shoulders, knee or hip, or you know what I mean? What are some of the offshoots of, look, I know this is bad and it's only going to get worse because this may develop? What are some of the signs that you see that really are in some ways preventable because they visit with you and they get a chance to look at some of the options?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times it's just, things that the patient is normally able to do in the course of their everyday life that all of a sudden become difficult. A big one, for example, with hip arthritis is I can't bend over to tie my shoes anymore, or I can't put my socks on, at that point, when relatively simple things in everyday life become more difficult, I think, it's time to start thinking about seeing the surgeon.
Let's talk about that after the surgery. So you guys go in, you do what you do with a hip or a knee. What does a typical recovery look like for a joint replacement? What do people need to be prepared for?
So I'd say probably 95+% of our patients go home from their surgery the same day.
Wow.
It's been shown to be effective and safe to do same-day joint replacement surgery in the vast majority of patients. Now, obviously, the patient who's been in a wheelchair for a year and a half before their surgery, that's not going to be an option for them. But for the regular run-of-the-mill, everyday sort of total joint replacement who's functional and walking around and doing their regular activities, those patients can go home the same day. We generally will allow full weight bearing right from day one. Patients do use an ambulatory aid, whether it's crutches or a walker, for anywhere from 1 to 2 weeks, and then a cane sometimes for another 1 to 2 weeks, but anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks, and sometimes even quicker, patients are fully weight bearing and slowly getting back into their, regular everyday life. It's usually about 4 weeks until we allow people to drive, if it's the right side of their body that's operated on. Physical therapy, to help get their gait right and get their muscle strength back and their range of motion is also part of the post-operative course.
So it sounds like this is, again, we've come a long way in the time you've been practicing. You're not done. You got plenty of time to continue to practice. And so do you see the curve continuing to improve? Do you feel like we're plateauing at all? Or is it like, hey, who knows what they're going to come up with next? Something that ends in anium, apparently, for Harper. But yeah, what do you see around the corner?
Be careful. That's another word of the day. But actually, a great question is what do you see down the pipeline?
Thank you. I asked it. Sorry. Go ahead,
I think,
Doctor.
Patients will always sort of, progress at their own pace, right? And I think, to some degree, we encourage them, we push them a bit. One of the big things now, obviously, is with the opioid epidemic and all that kind of stuff, we're trying to get away from, any use of opioids after surgery at all. We're constantly trying to decrease that number while maintaining good pain control. So there's a lot of different medications that we can use in the postoperative period that will very effectively manage patients' pain, and they may need to use an opioid from time to time, early on in the first couple of weeks after surgery. But we're really trying to get patients away from using opioids.
I would think that, you wanting to send people home, like if Stephen had surgery, to listen to him whine and cry, great idea. To send him home, let his wife and his kids deal with stuff like that. But I guess the education is part of the process. You're not only teaching people at the beginning, hey, this is an option for you, that once you get through that, here's what you need to do in order to get as close to back to normal life,
right,
or to be able to do things that you haven't been able to do.
Mm-hmm.
Play pickleball or do something like that it gets you out and doing positive things that you need to do, that you want to do, you desire to do.
Right. Yeah. It's good for people mentally, psychologically. It's good for people to, have a goal that they want to get back to after their surgery. And for them to reach that goal is good for good for them physically and mentally.
And the way that the quickness, in my opinion, of the getting back on your feet, you mentioned just with, you get to be going home the same day.
Yeah.
That would have been unheard of years ago.
Oh, sure, yeah. I mean, when I started practice, our joint replacement stayed in the hospital for a minimum 3 days.
Yeah.
And the problem is that, the hospital's great, right? But hospital's full of sick people. And if you don't need to be in the hospital, it's not the place to be.
Sure.
So,
but the follow-up and all that other stuff, you mentioned physical therapy, and if someone were to come in with you, you would have, I'm sure, a list of instructions after the surgery.
Yep.
I need to see you tomorrow, and then I'm going to need to see you again next week, and there's some things, and there's progression. Yep. Is all of that online, or do they need to do that in person? Is both available?
Yeah, so we do a good bit of preoperative education with patients, and it's important, and it's been shown to improve outcomes. Most patients like to know what to expect after their surgery. So, someone has pain on post-op day 2. Okay, well, that's normal. Some people, if you don't educate them, they may think that they should be completely out of pain by post-op day 2. So, we have well thought out, well tested protocols in our practice that we have certain milestones that we want patients to be reaching by a certain time. And, when we don't reach them, we want to know about it, and we're seeing patients on a regular basis post-operatively.
A lot of folks will say, you may not call it major surgery, but it was major to me, right?
Yep.
The ability for most people to go through something like this with the pain, obviously, the recovery, but in the past, it used to be a 9-month window. If you had any type of surgery at all, you're going to be back to normal in about nine months. Is that? You hear people, athletes, for example, they have Tommy John. It's going to take you a year.
Yep.
Or I broke a bone. It's going to be 6 to 8 weeks. You can't heal a bone any faster because that's just the way it is. But in this case, with joint replacement, is there less time in recovery than what there used to be?
Yeah. So I think the biology part of it is the same, right? Like our biology hasn't changed. If it takes a year for your body to go through all of that and for the sort of biologic activity return back to normal, that's probably 9 months to a year. But what happens inside that first 9 months to a year is vastly different now. So we are allowing patients to be more active early on. And a lot of that is based on the fact that, we're doing things a little differently now. We've tested these things out. We've tested them out, and it's safe for us to be a little bit more progressive, a little bit more active early on in the recovery.
You're technically on the cutting edge, aren't you?
Technically.
Yeah.
So, Dr. Wood, total joint specialist, you started the interview by talking about multiple locations. For those people who want to find out more, where are you guys located? Where are the different places that people can interact with you guys?
So we are here in Gwinnett County. We have an office in Snellville, Lawrenceville. We're opening a new surgery center and office in Beaufort, close to the Mall of Georgia. We also have a big office in Cumming. We have an office in Sandy Springs and a location in Cherokee County as well.
And the best way for people to kind of find out the closest one and the doctor they might want to work with, website?
Yeah, website, totaljointspecialist.com.
And it is plural, totaljointspecialists.com. So make sure you put that S on the end before you do the .com.
And you can get in touch with receptionist, if you so desire.
Absolutely.
Receptionist, Stephen.
Dr. Rob Wood with Total Joint Specialists, thank you so much for being here today.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Fantastic. And Harper, you've got to go make a call and find some representative for some company that you're available. But in the meantime, while you're doing that, I want to let our listeners know that we all know that keeping your company's financial future on track means having the right resources to support your growth. Regions Commercial Banking offers you lending capabilities and strategic solutions tailored to your needs. And you'll work with a team of experienced bankers here in Gwinnett. Discover steps to take that can help move you closer to your business goals. Regions is here to help. To learn more, visit regions.com/commercial-banking. Regions Bank.
Member
FDIC. And remember to get their cool little pen with the bike on top. They left a couple in our studio.
Is it made out of an ionium diode or something like that?
Anium is what you said.
Yeah. Anium?
Yeah, some kind of anium diode or uranium or, unobtainium,
so whatever.
vibranium.
There's something.
Yeah. All right. Very good. So I want to thank our guest, Dr. Rob Wood from Total Joint Specialist. Also want to thank Richard Culberson from VoiceNation Moneypenny. Harper, I want to thank you for being such a great co-host and calling me moldy and also calling me a bad patient. Among other things. I also want to thank Dan for producing the show. And I want to thank Mike Salmon for not coming out of his cubicle, but he's about to. So as he does that, we will say, we will catch you next time on Gwinnett Business Radio.